Welcome into another edition of Gas. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
We're playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of the Tight Pants Society.
No fucking play is that a gimme, right?
Oh, baby, the playoff run continues for the New England Patriots. We have a lot of NFL to break down, and wow, let me tell you, folks, I hope for those of you who own boots, put them on today, because you might have to step through some bullshit from my friend Jason Anik when we get into the AFC Championship game. How are you, buddy? Can you imagine from when we started this show to now? I think this is show 61, if I'm not mistaken, right? So we suffered through Mayo, and look at us now, we're here. Holy hell. Not only can I not believe that the Patriots are there, I can't believe who they're playing, which is a whole nother thing that we have to unpack as well. But good morning, Jason Anik. How are you, man?
Oh, couldn't be better. The New England Patriots enter the Final Four of the National Football League Championship. And it really is interesting, right? Cole Kmet from the Bears, right, who had the catch on that bomb for Caleb Williams, had some comments saying, it's really tough to get back there, right? And for Bears fans, we play in a tough division, right? Packers aren't going anywhere. Detroit maybe going to be heard from again. Minnesota, great coaching, etc. So it really is interesting, right? Where everyone in Chicago so sort of excited about the future. It's really fucking hard to get there and to punch your ticket to the Final Four. I said Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, look at the difference a year makes, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, I'm very excited about, and I know we're going to talk all about the Patriots, but it's really hard to get there, and paths are different every year. But let's go New England. They most certainly have a shot, bro.
Let me tell you, the weather was, I don't think it showed on TV how kind of awful it was being there, right? So for pregame, we were down on the field from 2 to 2:30 before the 3 o'clock kick, and you were getting wet, but it wasn't awful. When we were there for the postgame, Jay, that sucked. It was real heavy snow coming down, and even sitting in the stands, I made it to the beginning of the second quarter, and then 12 minutes second quarter, I'm like, I'm fat. I don't like getting wet. Unless I do it on my own. So I went inside to the club and kind of saddled up in there. And, but I'll tell you, the crowd, bro, playoff, people did not forget what it felt like to be a playoff team. It was loud. It was raucous. Jay, I know you weren't listening. You're in Florida on the radio broadcast. So when you're in the club, they sync Bob Sosey and Zolak with the game. It's awesome. I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, no, they do a real good job with that. All of a sudden, there's 3 minutes to go in the game, and I know my boy, right? So I know, so this guy, so all of a sudden, this dude mutters. All of a sudden, you hear people trying to get in the booth. And I'm like, oh, no, because we had that happen when I was on the network, and I hear, and they make a big play, right? I forget what it was, like a defensive stop or something. And Bob, makes the call, and all of a sudden, I hear Zoe go, well, you just security over here. Got a problem. Apparently there was, that lone Pats fan who got absolutely foobarred and was trying to climb in the booth. So it was a climb in the booth type game for the fans. It was fantastic. Man, oh man, seeing the Houston sideline before halftime. I don't know if I put it in the text string or not.
You
did. They were dead. Honestly, when a kicker has a chance at a game-winning field goal, there's nobody near him, right? CJ Stroud, that pick with a minute to go or whatever it was, he sits down and there's nobody near him. No one's coming over to talk to him. I think they lost faith in the guy. It was really amazing to kind of see it live. It really was. But I don't think the weather showed the way on TV. What that second half, it was really difficult sledding out there, I thought.
There's really so much to get into, and I know we're going to get into the game. So just allow me, because we're going to talk about CJ Stroud.
I know I went off.
No, you didn't. And CJ Stroud, thank you. All New England Patriots fans, be thankful for CJ Stroud. But I just want to peel back an onion a little bit sort of before we dive fully into the game. So, as I thought about being a Patriots fan the last 2 seasons, 4 and 13, both years, right? And I couldn't get out of my head what Kendrick Bourne said, who was here in New England for a lot of the bad years and got moved this year. And he said, I look forward to being around for the turnaround in New England. And he wasn't. And they paid him a lot of money. But I just want to sort of talk a little bit about some of these Patriots that have kind of been here, right? So Anthony Jennings and Michael Onwenu both were here, and they were drafted in 2020, right? So they're both here, right? Christian Barmore, Mondre Stevenson from 2021, Marcus Jones, the only one from the 2022 draft class, right? And the only free agents, none from 2020, 22, 23, 2021. It's Hunter Henry, Jelani Tavai. So I thought a lot about those guys who have sort of been here and what it must be like to not only sort of have a turnaround and win 16 out of 19 games you play, but actually have a chance to compete for a championship, where even those guys in preseason must have thought that was maybe a big ask.
Oh, 100%. If you put everyone on the truth-o-meter, from Vrabel to Drake Maye, even me, if you ask Robert Kraft what would have been the record this year, I would have been a little bit of a wise ass and said better. He would have worked around it and said better than last year, right? But this is truly amazing. And Jay, here's something that I can't get over right now, okay? They haven't played great. Maybe one phase was really up. Special team, you know what I mean? Well, maybe the offense is up, maybe the defense is up. They averaged it out to be able to win these games, but they haven't put one together yet. They haven't put together we allow 10 points and go out and score 35 yet.
Well, but, defense and special teams over the last couple games. I mean, special teams, right? It's like, you don't need to know the punter's name if he does his job. And field position was crucial in this game. You see a lot of these NFL teams, especially Ben Johnson, right? Like not taking a field goal early on in a football game. And you see Mike Vrabel still have enough old school in him. I just can't get enough.
You know what, Jay, just real quick. One of my keys on TV was field position over analytics. And I think Ben Johnson really kind of drove that home, right? If you take the point, it's the playoffs, man. Take the points that are there on the whole, situation dependent, obviously. If you're down, then of course you got to go. But I can't believe there are certain things that do win in the playoffs. Special teams and field position are a part of it. And I understand the allure of trying to go for it on 4th and 2. But when you think about that instead of points, doesn't that have to change the sort of risk factors? I just don't get it, man.
Absolutely. And I have countless memories in my head of Patrick Mahomes shaking his head, walking off the field as Andy Reid takes his 3 and takes his 3 and takes his 3 and wins football games.
Great point.
So another thing I want to get to a little bit about this fucking roster, right? Because, we can talk about this Patriots roster. We can talk about, nobody believed they would get there, right? And you know me, I'm going to tell you why I love the Broncos. I told you why I love the Texans last week, and I did. But I also was the guy who told you how much I love the Patriots against the Chargers, Gresh. And there's a reason I have an 88-1 ticket on the Patriots to win the Super Bowl, and it's only $10. And the reason I placed it, Gresh, is because I genuinely did believe, and you, me, and Cody, while we all believed in over 8.5 wins or 7, whatever it was, I do genuinely believe that all 3 of us, I know I felt this way, weren't really sure how high the ceiling was, because we know this league can be funky. And you can talk about the soft schedule, you talk what it is, Patriots handling who's in front of them. But as I circle back to this roster, okay, you talk about Vrabel and sort of cleaning up this roster, right? And this draft, but the number one guy I just have to talk to, and shout out Nick Goss, is from NBC Sports Boston, Craig Woodson, okay? Craig Woodson, right? The guy that I was talking about from last year's draft, right? Maybe been the best of all, right? So he's just everything he does. Like, he's athletic, he's smart. And the reason I think they parted with Kyle Duggar in October, not just maybe because he didn't fit the system, was because they knew they had a dude in this rookie, right? And you just think about this rookie class, right? Will Campbell, we could talk about him. We will as we get to the game. But Trevion Henderson, right? Jared Wilson been okay. Kyle Williams, obviously. Even Andres Barragales, right? We haven't seen him with a big opportunity in the postseason yet, but been pretty consistent, right? But Craig Woodson, to me, every fucking week gets the pick last week. I'm just blown away with this roster.
Well, I think what they did was it wasn't just filling holes on the roster. I think in theory it was adding depth. So in a way, like when you think of Woodson, right? It's we like this guy. Maybe he'll grow into something. They get him in the 4th round. But they knew they at least had 2 veterans who, even if they weren't great, they weren't going to shit their pants. So the kid, thank you. Got a glass of water here. So
nice.
no, but
you.
like
talk to me like that?
No, because you come up with BS whatnot. Anyway, so they had guys there, right? They knew they were taking the left tackle. That was easy. But Wilson in the 3rd round, I think that's a guy who might be the starting center next year, Jay, depending on how they go in free agency. Because I think Bradbury's going to be gone. You want a real satchel ass in there at center. Maybe you get yourself another guard. So he's kind of like a swing guy that they drafted, but they hit on all of them. Like, they played all these guys, right? Like, you had Ramondre, and you and I think, were pro Antonio Gibson last year, in thinking that guy would be at least a contributor. It's a good backup or depth piece, right? You draft Henderson, you don't really know. Gibson gets hurt, opportunities there. Henderson plays great. Like, I think Campbell was a plan, because we're going to put him in this hole. But some of those depth pieces, to your point, and Woodson's a great example, those guys have really stepped up and done well. And I think Borregales, people, the analytics nerds say don't draft kickers. I say that's complete horse shit. It's a guy who scores for you.
I'm with
Think
you.
about it. I mean, and I know that you're not taking one maybe in the 1st round, but then again, if you're in the AFC Championship game and your kicker misses a big kick and you decide to draft one the next year in the 4th round, that makes sense to me.
And his Miami Hurricanes, you can be sure, are missing him. And Elliott Wolf, shout out Elliott Wolf too, right? Getting some credit here. He seemed very bullish on that Trevion Henderson pick. And what's interesting is you see Joe Shane retain his position with the Giants, and you see Elliott Wolf sort of retain his spot with the Patriots, right? Sometimes you have leaders that can come in, Vrabel, probably John Harbaugh, that can not ruffle all the feathers and actually have a guy that can sort of stick around and still be a cog in the wheel. I mean, I could go on and on. Kayvon Chason, I mean, come on, man. Like, it just, I could go on and on.
I mean, like, seriously. And well, you know what it is too, Jay? A lot of these guys and some of these dudes that hit free agency, I think Chason's a perfect example. Didn't he have like a season where he missed half a year or something like that? Like, he's a guy who's gotten dinged up. Anthony Jennings, who Belichick stashed on the roster forever, that guy was always dinged up. But when he's out there, he's a productive piece for 15, 20 plays. So I think they have found role players or dudes who've been around here, like Jelani Tavai knows he's not the 3-down middle linebacker. That guy goes out there, and for as much as he isn't naturally talented, in my opinion, like, he's not going to overwhelm you with strength, speed, or anything like that. He's a smart guy who pays attention. He's got a lot of experience, and more importantly, is willing to accept the role. Like, to me, there's Gonzo, Woodson probably, and then Milt. Those guys are 3-down players. Otherwise, and maybe Davis. Otherwise, most everybody else is kind of rotating through. So when you think about the buy-in as well, I think the defense has done a really, really good job of some of those depth guys filling in, but dudes who've been around subjugating their ego and saying, hell yeah, I want to be a part of this team. I'll play this role.
Dude, I love it. So let's talk a little bit about the game. I know we got a game that was played and a game that is going to be moving forward. And there's so many directions to take it. But I have to start with the Patriots quarterback, you know what I mean? And ultimately made a lot of great throws. The throw to Booty, catch better than the throw. The catch by Stephon Diggs, okay? Stephon Hall of Fame Diggs, okay? The catch by Stephon Diggs. And the way to catch that, great throw by Maye, but for him to catch that ball and keep it above the turf for all of us fans, no question about it. But Drake Maye, Shake Maye. How many times are you going to put the ball on the turf in the NFL postseason and live to fight another day?
Yeah.
And if Jarrett Stidham can come in and do what Davis Mills did not get the opportunity to do for Houston and manage the game, tell you what, if Drake Maye going to spit the ball up 3-4 times on the turf, I think they're going to be in trouble. Lot to talk about.
Yeah, there's a real problem with Maye in terms of his backside feel. And maybe it's just reps, right? I kind of remember young Brady having a pretty good feel as to, I feel pressure or something like that. Like, he's also the greatest to ever do it. So it's unfair to compare, but we've at least seen somebody who's pretty good at understanding either the clock in the head or kind of the feel from behind. I wonder if Will Campbell is playing hurt or
not quite healthy yet. I hear you.
Yeah. Like it doesn't, there are times where his push is inconsistent. And I do think that Cody just put it in the chat. Every round of the playoffs, the intensity and the speed and the processing picks up for everybody. And I think the Youngs might be having a little bit of a hard time of sort of elevating that processing speed. And we've seen what's happened. And Drake Maye holding that ball like a loaf of bread while he's running, that's inexcusable. That reminds us he's a young player.
And certainly Bill Campbell's going to tell you that some of those Maye fumbles are solely on him, but you got to have a little bit of feel for the backside. Certainly when Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr. coming around, those guys get there quicker than most. It's fascinating to me, and I'm not trying to move too forward for the next game, but that Chargers defensive line is dangerous, as is the defensive backfield. You get this Texans defense that's certainly the best defense in the NFL this season. Not going to get that much easier this week in Denver, so they're certainly going to be well tested if they're going to make it to Santa Clara.
I know, excuse me. I know that having pass rush as a defense is a part of the formula to win. Well, the more I think about it, the more I think the interior defensive tackle like Milton Williams is more of a wrecker and more important than pass rushers. Jay, I was going back through some numbers this year. Do you remember how many sacks Myles Garrett had against New England?
I do.
5. Yeah. And the score was 32-12. And I look at like Will Anderson, who's a hell of a player. But when you pay those guys $35 million, they're not winning a game for you. They're helping you win a game. But, Myles Garrett's the perfect example of even good team, bad team, he's going to put up numbers. But what does it really mean to winning? Like, I thought Milt Williams beat the hell out of that Texans offensive line. And to me, that was more important than a couple of sacks from Will Anderson. Now, they did turn into turnovers, and I know that's where you got to count on your offense. So I do like the turnover part of it, I get. But to me, if I'm going to spend $35 million on defensive player, I think I'm doing it on an interior defensive lineman that wrecks shit versus a pass rusher where you have to hope it's 3rd and long, like it was with New England because they couldn't run the ball.
That's really good stuff. I mostly agree with it, but I think you can do it both ways. I certainly think that Texans defense, if CJ Stroud is not literally gifting the football over and over again, I think they absolutely have a puncher's chance. There were multiple opportunities for them to not only be in that game, but win that game. And
what do you do with that guy, Jay?
Well, it's so interesting to hear you talk about the offensive line, right? And Trent Brown with an ankle. I never liked Trent Brown. I hate to say it, and I don't like saying that about football players, but it's like, come on, man, it's a big game. I actually think for the Patriots, I want him to be playing. I don't think he gives maximum effort all the time, and I understand linemen need to be big, Gresh, but he never looks to be in great physical condition. But I don't know what you do, right? CJ Stroud, early in his career, I'll never forget some of his post-game interviews where, yes, he talked about Jesus a lot, but he was so incredibly locked in. And I look at him now, he's almost incredibly locked out in a way where he looks to be in a different place. I said after the 5 fumble game at Pittsburgh that they won, there's no way he fumbles the ball again. Well, I don't know. Maybe he didn't fumble it, but he threw 4 picks in the first half. So I don't even know where to begin. Certainly, I think there's some ability there, but certainly the mental component has lost him. I think the concussions, who knows what comes into it. But ultimately, if you're a guy that's fumbled 5 times last week, I can certainly understand why you're anxious to throw the ball out of your hand. But yikes.
Yeah, I think Davis Mills is the worst thing that happened to CJ Stroud. Not because they're going to say, wow, Davis Mills is our franchise quarterback, let's give him $300 million. But because you saw what it looked like without CJ Stroud. And Davis Mills is a nice player, but I don't think anybody is turning over their, even short-term starting quarterback role to the guy. But it showed that, holy hell, if we can just get somebody in here who's relatively competent and doesn't screw the pooch. Like, a lot of people looked at Drake Maye early in the year, and it was like, oh, he's only 19 of 23. They didn't throw it very much. Yeah. He performed exactly what they asked him to do, and look at what happened. And if you had someone like that who could just be efficient, not turn it over, and give you 220 yards and 2 touchdown passes a game, you're right. The Texans are probably the one playing in Denver, or maybe, they beat Jacksonville and end up the number 3 seed from the regular season. It does kind of suck for Houston, but this is where they've always plateaued. I think this is kind of who they are. And if I can say something real quick, the owner of the Texans, Cal McNair, came walking by. Whew, he is overachieving, brother.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My God.
Well,
everybody was like, whoa.
Yeah,
it was one of these walking across the field. Everybody's going, just like completely like staring. And my thought was, God damn, if that mouth breather can pull that, we all got hope.
Well,
anyway,
Cardi B's having a much better week than that lady. So
do you know? Oh, and let me give you another little something here. So Michael Maye sits in the club seats, believe it or not, but they assigned a security person to her this week because now everybody wants to like get pictures with her and all that stuff. And yeah, it was interesting that maybe the most after Cardi B, the second most famous wag on that roster right now, who's like the it girls walking around with like security people and stuff like that. It was pretty cool.
It's amazing. Last Thanksgiving, I was thankful for Jameis Winston. This year, the front runner is Cardi B. She embodies all of my emotions as a Patriots fan. I can't get enough. And Stephon Diggs is one of my all-time favorite Patriots. I feel similarly about Stephon Diggs, dare I say, to how I felt about Kevin Garnett. Not maybe a little bit of a notch below, but he truly embodies so much, and all the good is just outweighs all the little bit of bad. One thing I want to say about Drake Maye.
Yeah.
I understand he turned the football over and made a lot of poor decisions and poor plays, and he's young. But I also like the ice in the veins to make some great plays. He did make a lot of great throws. And what's special to me about Drake Maye is even in a bad game, Stroud had a bad game too. Drake Maye did a lot of good things in that game as well. And so I like Drake's ability to bounce back. I love this team's sort of youthfulness as I look at them in the future, because they absolutely are still learning on the job. And if they're able to make a run to the Super Bowl as 5.5-point favorites at Denver, as they learn on the job, we'll take it.
I'll tell you this about Diggs. I was worried about him because I know that eventually the cork pops and the other part of Steph Diggs, shows up. But if that's coming next year or 2 years down the road, for what he has meant to this team this year, it's worth it to deal with it. If he and there's no guarantee that he will be a pain in the ass. If everything is good here and he's winning and he's getting his, I think he'll be good, and the bad part of him won't show up. But I couldn't agree with you more. And I don't think we've seen his best yet, Jay.
Drake.
And the reason Drake and
you're still on Diggs.
Yeah, Diggs. But here's the thing, right? You and I have lived to see Tom Brady and the Patriots down to the Giants, and Tom Brady look at Randy Moss and say, we're going to go win this game. And they go down and score and give the Patriots the lead. And ultimately, we know what happens with Plexico Burress, and they spit the bit, right? We haven't seen that yet with Drake and with Diggs. Like, we haven't seen the shit. It's a minute to go. What are we going to do? All right, come on, Diggs. Let's be special. And Drake be special. And those two guys just kind of look at each other and give you the whole, we're about to go win this game. The way Brady and Moss had it, even though they didn't. And that's what excites me. Like when you mentioned Diggs, and he's been really good this year. I mean, when he's right, Cody just put it in our chat. When he's right, he's a dog. He can be a pain in the ass, but I'll take it right now.
I think, Gresh, I don't know who was the first person to put Hall of Fame in my head about Stephon Diggs, and I haven't looked at the body of work, right? But his contested catches, he catches everything. He's oddly underrated, right? And he tore his ACL last year, a little bit of a falling out in Buffalo, but it's such a fascinating career for me. And I don't know, I guess for me, when I sum up last week's
look at
game,
that play. Golly.
As we sort of move forward into into the game coming up this week, last week, there were two men who looked really, really unhappy at the end of that football game on the New England side. And they were Drake Maye and Will Campbell, right? Because they both knew that they could have been contributors toward a loss rather than a win. And Will Campbell looked disgusted with himself. And maybe it's because he doesn't fully have his legs under him, which really in defense of him, right? And, especially those short arms, got to have your legs under you. No, I'm just kidding. But it'll be interesting. And what great reps for Will Campbell in the postseason to go against these two offensive lines. And we'll see what happens in Denver. I have so many thoughts on this matchup against Denver. Shall we move toward that game, Gresh? Or you got anything else to close this up?
Keep this rolling, Cody. Look at Vrabes.
Yep.
Did you see him touch the chin? Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The love matters. Yes. The love matters.
And you know what? But that's also Vrabel's been there as a player. And he knows how that guy feels. And he's trying to change his perspective. And he has his coaching. Son, his same age. It's like when I chirp a little bit about John Harbaugh at 63, and I look at this 50-year-old Vrabel, Mike Vrabel, it's just, you think about so many things that happened during this season with this organization that you don't hear about. There's shit Vrabel has to sweep under the rug. There's shit, even when you talk about Barmore Diggs and the news and with the, civil cases or whatever, but there's so many things that rumblings, coaches that are squeaky wheels. It's hard managing people. And Mike Vrabel just has been a master all year. Yep. He's done a fantastic job. All right. Bye. Let me, let's go to Patriots Broncos next, right?
You can talk about how much money I lost on the Texans. No.
I don't want to. Because I'm going to channel Ric Flair. Ladies and gentlemen, for your line of bullshit today on how somebody's going to try to convince you that the crap-ass Denver Broncos and some kind of backup jabroni are going to beat the New England Patriots. Here's my friend Jason Anik. Woo!
Thank you. So I want to back up a little bit, right? Because you know that I said last week, and say, if the Patriots beat the Texans, who would you rather face, Bills or Broncos? And I said the Texans are the team I fear. I like their chances potentially against both the teams. I fear the Bills a little more, but that game would be in New England. And ultimately, I said Denver should have been 10-7, a lot of opportunities to lose football games that they didn't. But I will say that football game last week, Bo Nix played a great game and impressed the shit out of me. And it's a totally different football game without Bo Nix. I didn't check the betting line or what it would have been prior, but I'm guessing Broncos may be favored by 1.5 or so, Gresh.
I think it was Broncos either like 1.5 or 2, something like that. Skinny, under 3.
So the fact that we sit here now with the Patriots as 5.5-point favorites, I understand Bo Nix's ability to be clutch. I understand the ability with the legs. I understand all the things about Jarrett Stidham. But ultimately, Sean Payton went after Stidham for a reason. And the Patriots, right, they are not some perfect juggernaut. Right? No. Do I think there are great opportunities for the Patriots defense to make this a great win for New England? Absolutely. But the offense needs to do their part, right? You talk about sacks not being that important. Take some sacks. Drake, take sacks all day. Protect the pigskin. I think that ultimately is it. But Jarrett Stidham, just so interesting for me, right? So as a starter, he's 1-3. But the 4 games he's started, the circumstances to me are just hilarious. when he was with the Raiders. At the end of the season, they shut Derrick Carr down for the last 2 games so he doesn't get hurt, contract related. And then the same exact thing the next season with the Broncos, last 2 games of the season, shutting down Russell Wilson so they protect that asset to move on from it. Both in the situation. So the irony is the 2 times he's been given opportunities to start, both 2-game sets, in these circumstances where they're not trying to see what you got, Jarrett. You're literally just sort of plug and play. So this is a guy who's never been given a shot, right? I can't imagine what's going through his mind. I like him a lot as a human being. I've been following him because he was on the Patriots, right? So I'm just fascinated I have no clue. Right? I have no clue what to expect from Jarrett Stidham. The betting line has to indicate something, but for me, it's up to Drake Maye to make this betting line be what it is. It's up to Drake Maye to protect the football. If Drake Maye protects the football, it's hard for me to imagine the Patriots find a different way to lose the game.
Who would have thought that a second-year quarterback on a team that has come from nowhere to make the AFC Championship game would have that kind of pressure on him? Because you're right, Jay. If there is that ounce of badass, let's say, in Drake Maye, you don't lose to this guy. I can imagine what it would be like for Drake Maye dealing with his brothers if he makes it to an AFC Championship game and he loses to Jarrett Stidham, right? Like Luke and his brothers will be on his ass, busting his chops forever because Drake Maye shouldn't lose to that guy. And to your point, I have no idea what Sean Payton's going to do. That's the scary thing. But what is Jarrett Stidham really capable of? What's crazy is the guy they need to call is Bill Belichick in a weird way, because the reason Cam Newton came to the New England Patriots was because Bill Belichick determined Jarrett Stidham's not a starting quarterback in the NFL, and it's kind of been proven out since, and that's why we had Cam in 2020. So what doesn't he do well? What didn't he do well? We don't know. You and I talk UFC all the time, right? Some of these people disappear for 13 months and they come back and they're completely different. So maybe this is Jeff Hostetler, or maybe this is Tim Couch.
Well, and we talk about repetitions in life, whether it's in broadcasting or any walk of life. For Stidham to get no reps here, I just think is a big factor. But I know this is a cliche, but for Drake Maye and his brothers, I hope they're not thinking in any way about the quarterback matchup and thinking about a great, great, great defense in a place. The Patriots are 0-3 in the postseason at Denver. This is a really tough place to play, but this team's 8-0 on the fucking road, Gresh. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't think it matters where they're playing. And I like the opportunity for Drake Maye and Will Campbell to bounce back a little bit. Ultimately, they do have a shorter week, right? Broncos get an extra day. I don't know how much that factors in. But I do believe that Jarrett Stidham, it's going to go sort of one way or another, right? I think he's either going to be very capable and it's going to be a close game, and perhaps, who knows, maybe he'll manage a game in a way that Bo Nix wouldn't, and it could offset. Or I think potentially the Patriots are going to play well enough to the point where he really is going to be exposed, and maybe it isn't that close a game. But the idea that this is just up, Patriots, Bilal Muhammad texted me, Patriots easy road to the Super Bowl. What? Nothing about that game is easy, in my opinion.
No, and look at the defenses they played along the way too. Like, people did, all right, fine then. People said, all right, you had an easy regular season. All right, well, they're beating the playoff teams, so what are we talking about here? Here's why Jarrett Stidham is going to flop. As long as New England skunks the run, that's the biggest caveat in this game. Don't allow Denver to run the ball. Be who you've been this season defensively against the run. Jay, everybody's focusing on the quarterbacks. Well, in that divisional round game, Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant, wide receivers, they left with injuries. Franklin and Bryant combined for 27% of the Broncos' receiving yards this year, including the playoffs. So you lose your starting quarterback who had every passing yard for you this year, and you're taking away 2 of what is 5 wide receivers. So how much 3 wide are you going to run without those guys? You're going to put the Efton Chisholm of Denver in right off the practice squad or something like that. Maybe Peyton might try some of that stuff, but at the end of the day, this is where having Christian Gonzalez is worth his weight in gold. Fine. Whatever number 1 you're going to deem Denver, we have the guy that is going to be able to deal with him. Oh, and by the way, we'll switch some defenses around and mix it up for your quarterback so he either sees ghosts or throws us the football like the guy did last week.
You know, my brother John was fortunate enough to be with you for the Chargers game, and his main takeaway was how enjoyable it is to sit with you and your football brain and watch that game ultimately through your lens. So I want through your lens to take me into sort of like the practice week for the Denver Broncos, where you can be sure it's a massive shift. Instead of implementing a game plan for Bo Nix and sort of building upon what they've done, you almost have to take it down a completely different path and figure out what bells and whistles you want to completely throw away, right? To take me inside the practice week, because they have to do a lot of things this week in practice that they probably wish they didn't have to do to get Stidham up to speed.
Yeah, I think the first thing they got to figure out is who are going to be, what wide receivers are going to be up and how much depth do they have? Because if you can have 5 wide receivers active on game day, but in losing Franklin and Bryant, if you don't trust the 2 guys that are replacing them, then you're like, okay, I got 3 wide receivers that I can work with in terms of the game plan. Then how many tight ends can I mix in? Formationally, what can I do off of that? So I really think that wide receiver room, it kind of starts there. And then my guess is Sean Payton is probably going to sell to his football team, listen, you guys know Stiddy. We love Stiddy. He's been here for a while. We don't have to change anything in the way we play because it all is going to come down to the execution anyway. So Stiddy knows that. I don't think Peyton blows it up. I don't think if anything, it's more the in-game managing from Sean Payton. I think it's going to be a relatively normal practice week. A lot of guys are going to have to get used to what Stidham sounds like. They're going to have some live reps. What does it sound like when Stidham's got the clock winding down and he's changing a protection or he's changing a call or something like that? With every quarterback, it's different. Even in the way, yes, the quote-unquote cadence is the same on 2, but the hut-huts might sound different. Or the way a guy rolls his hut-huts or something like that. Does Sean Payton want Stidham even standing up there and being a maestro, right?
Right.
That's another thing, too. Maybe with Bo Nix, he had a little more freedom, but with Stidham, he may not give him that much. I think you also, as a head coach and the play caller, you got to be aware of when you need a timeout. If your guy's overwhelmed, don't let him go out there and drown. Burn the timeout, even if people look at you and say, you're wasting it. It's better to lose the timeout than it is to have a play that might mentally set someone backwards. Here's also what I'm doing if I'm Denver defensively. I'm going to have 1 day of hitting if allowed. I'm going to gas them out. And then we're going to do a live run period with the biggest goddamn running back I can find. I'm going to gas my defense out and say to them, if we're going to win this game in the 4th quarter, you all are hurting. You're dying right now. Well, they got a 225-pound running back who's closed out games and has saved their season the last 6 or 7 weeks. So we're going to go live, and you guys are going to, we're going to go as hard as we can within reason in practice. But I'm going to try to gas them out and make sure they understand the importance of defending that run in the 4th quarter, because that's where I think if New England wears them down, that's where that 6-0 line group. The 6-0 line group did a pretty decent job against Houston. I think they'll do a good job against Denver. And I haven't talked to anybody out there. My source out there. I haven't talked to anybody out there, but can I just give you something that I would do if I'm Vrabel? I know you asked me about Denver because of the backup quarterback and everything, and I've been rambling. If I'm Vrabel, I'm flying out Friday. And I'm having a full-blown outdoor workout on Saturday where everybody gets their heart rate up and everybody blows up. feel it in their lungs, right? And then on Sunday, it's not as bad when you're doing it on game day. So, if I'm Vrabel, I would have been talking to Mr. Kraft long before. Let's go out on Friday so I can blow them up Saturday so they're okay for Sunday.
It's fascinating. The elevation is a real significant piece of this. One point Cody brought in the chat that I think is worthwhile. He says, I love that the Patriots have clearly done a lot to focus on ball security outside of Drake Maye. And I think that's really true. Like Mondre Stevenson and Trevion Henderson deserve a lot of credit. See a lot of players, position players all around this league spitting it all over the field. And the running backs for New England. I said to my wife as we watched that game, I said, Trevion Henderson, one job. You don't have to do anything. I don't care if you run for a yard and a half every time. Just don't spit the ball on the field. Yep. Couple more things about Stidham real quick from Cody, right? So 749 days since his last NFL pass attempt. That's just unbelievable. Longest such layoff for a playoff starter. And I think this is important to be Bo Nix. Broncos lose Bo Nix's elite sack avoidance, third best since 2019, and his clutch factor, 8 game-winning drives this year. Those things are interesting, and I've been pretty critical of Bo Nix, but he really impressed me getting the best over of Josh Allen. And finally, I'll say about Drake Maye, as I am critical, a lot of these quarterbacks have had bad moments. Brock Purdy, Matt Stafford even, right? Certainly Josh Allen last week. So in the postseason, you are seeing a lot of guys get tight. I just think for 2 straight weeks, it's happened to Drake Maye, and it has to get fixed now.
You know what? And I lost the point earlier that I was going to make off of what you said about Drake Maye and CJ Stroud. When Drake Maye made a mistake, he usually bounced back with something positive, not making up for it, but CJ Stroud made a mistake, made another mistake, piled on with another mistake. Like some guys, they just go and just absolutely sink and they can't get out of their own way. That's where you know that Drake Maye has the ability to put the bad play behind him because he makes one, but then turns around and fights back. It wasn't, just that second quarter was an utter disaster for CJ Stroud. You never really see that from Drake Maye where it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Patriots had a lot of good fortune in this game. Will Campbell recovering that fumble inside their own 5. I tell you what, that ball's recovered by the Texans. I think perhaps we are looking at Houston playing in Santa Clara, perhaps. It's a crazy game. This game was far closer than the score indicated.
Hey, can we go back to Broncos Bills? We have to address, if you're Josh Allen, you for as good as he was in parts of that game, relative to the way we evaluate Josh Allen and the expectations that the Buffalo Bills have on him, he shit his pants. He did. That turnover at the end of the second quarter that led to 3 points was an absolute disaster. And I know he makes great plays, but golly, they needed more from him.
Well, in my opinion, I know we're going to get to this in topic 3 when we talk about the coaches, but that's on the head football coach at the end of the second quarter. Players play the game. You can't put Superman in a position to literally try to be Superman there, right? And then you end up in overtime, right? It gave him 3 points, whether it's a 6-point swing, 3-point swing, either way. We'll get to Sean McDermott later, but that game was unbelievable. And for a guy like Josh Allen, who is just really, I think all of us are like, you know what? That's the best player in the NFL. Maybe Puka Nacua is right. But Josh Allen at his position. But Josh Allen's like, you watch him, you're like, oh my God. Like given all the other things he can do, and then to have the type of accuracy he has with the football, he just blows my mind. And so
there's just so much. There's so much on the guy, Jay. It's crazy.
Well, I know, and it's just so interesting how Brandon Cooks, and I said it going in, right? He's great. And I maybe try and keep him there, right? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just, you're right. He needs some dudes. And even a guy like Stephon Diggs, who had a great relationship with Josh Allen. Ultimately, it just didn't work out, Right. And I don't even know what to say about the Bills, but it's really tough to get there. I'll say more about the Bills when we talk about their next coach.
Yeah, very much so. The Seahawks and the Rams are the NFC Championship game matchup. I mean, golly, I hate it. I hate it when my evaluation is right and coaches screw it up. How in the world does Ben Johnson justify that many times passing up points. You do it once, okay. But to be like, I am a slave to analytics, and you think you're smarter than everybody else, and he outsmarted himself from a win. It's crazy. I was just blown away at that. And look, I'm not the biggest fan of the Rams. I give them credit. Caleb Williams is a goddamn egghead. I mean, that throw was awful in overtime. Just unnecessary. Like, you don't see Drake Maye doing that shit. Like, they it's like, okay, kid, we might let some handcuffs off you, but don't do that. And Caleb Williams does that to hurt his football team in that moment.
And the throw to Kayshon Boutte, right? What you hear Vrabel and other people say is they put it in a position where only Boutte could catch it. There's no risk there. And maybe on the Caleb Williams interception, the miscommunication between him and DJ Moore. Oh, well, it just is what it is. Can't, but Ben Johnson putting him in position when they're moving the football to take that type of risk, I think calls into question. It is unbelievable how the public anoints Caleb Williams for some of his amazing throws. Yeah, that backpedaling throw, that was a 14-yard touchdown pass from the floor. Unbelievable. Element of luck there, to be sure. But I keep coming back to Cole Kmet's comments. It is not easy to get back there. And the idea that the Bears, I'll tell you right now, if New England had lost in that round, you wouldn't have heard the same type of, it's been a great season. Be really careful talking about how great a fucking season you have. When you make it into the top 8, it's hard to get back there. And I don't think you would have had the same narrative in New England because it's championship or fucking bust. Let's go, boys. Cody, you fired up in the back. Let's go win the whole fucking thing.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the Seahawks are not happy that I'm sure they're seeing the Rams again for a third time. All those divisional familiarity. Plus, the Bears were ripe to soil themselves. I just thought they were going to do it in the next round on the road in Seattle. I mean, that's just if that doesn't change some of Ben Johnson's thought processes, then we know that we have lost some level of sanity in football. When it's the playoffs, you take the points. I go back to Charlie Weiss. Charlie, what's the key to winning in the postseason? Just be 1 point better. There's no style points. We're going to sit here and bitch and moan to Drake Maye and the fumbling because we don't want it to be a problem and all that stuff. But that's all you got to do is be 1 point better. And I think the Bears kind of forgot about that. And, again, kudos to the Rams. They find their way there against an opponent they're familiar. But, boy, could Seattle have looked any better in rolling over a team that you and I thought a lot of in San Francisco?
Dude, well, ultimately, it's a huge sort of feather in the cap of Seattle to play the same team twice in a row. They take care of San Francisco 13-3, right? Then bye week, and then they still don't let them score a touchdown in 2 straight weeks. A team that had averaged over 42 points a game for 3 straight weeks. Talking about the Texans being the best defense in the NFL. This Seahawks defense, all 3 levels, super impressive. So there was a game late in the season that the Seahawks beat the Rams, right? 38-37. And ultimately, that was a game where I felt like the Rams really outplayed the Seahawks. I felt like Stafford really cemented the MVP that day. And I can't really get that game out of my mind. I know we're going to pick this game later on. I'm glad that the best 2 teams in football, I really do believe the Seahawks and Rams are the 2 best teams in football. I'm glad that they both made it to this spot because I think they both have earned it. Whichever team emerges from the AFC, I think it's going to be an uphill battle. I think you're certainly going to have a plus number by your name, maybe even up to a touchdown. So I think it is certainly a pick'em game. I don't know who I'm picking in this game. Maybe I do that at the end of this show because I truly believe it could go either way. But for me, the Rams offense and Matthew Stafford to me, I know we had some heated conversations about the MVP. Matthew Stafford looks like the MVP. He looks like everything that Drake Maye isn't quite yet in these tense moments. That's the guy I want. And I think Sam Darnold ultimately, while, this one playoff game, it's a blowout, Rashid Shaheed taken to the house right out of the gate. Not a lot of pressure on Darnold yet. I think there will be pressure on Sam Darnold in this spot.
Well, I'm sort of torn here because what I think is best for the New England Patriots is not going to happen in this game. I want them to play the Rams.
I know you do.
Yeah, because they'll bring it to the Rams, and I don't think the Rams want to stand there and fight. Seattle, they're a bunch of assholes on defense. Like,
yes,
and I think they end up winning this game. But man, oh man, the way that Seattle looked, like Darnold threw for like 150 yards or something like that. Cody just threw in the chat, not happy Darnold has been spotless. It's been kind of crazy. He's been pretty good. I don't even remember any real dicey throws that could have gone the other way even.
But what are we talking about here, Cody? Are we talking about like that? Because down the stretch, Sam Darnold was shaky. He was. I know they won 5 straight down the stretch, but I could go look at some of his game logs. He was a little shaky down the stretch.
His last pick was December 28th, according to Code. So, yep. But look at it this way. I just think Seattle is Darnold is the factor. If you had Stafford on Seattle or Drake Maye on Seattle, they're an overwhelming favorite to win the championship. It's really the fear. It's really the fear of Sam Darnold, because I think Seattle's a complete football team.
I do too.
They're big along the line of scrimmage. They're badasses. Their defense has plenty of asshole. They're pretty good on special teams. They play in an environment that makes you tough. A lot like New England, right? Seattle, rain, gross. That's a hideous environment up there at times. So it makes you kind of mentally tough to where you can deal rain and bad weather and all that kind of crap. Yeah, if you put a different quarterback on Seattle, we're all probably picking Seattle. It's really that Darnold wild card, like you said, Jay.
And Cody just put up Zach Charbonnet out for the remainder of the postseason. That is most certainly a factor. While Kenneth Walker is outstanding, Charbonnet's a guy who really could cause some problems for opposing defenses. I think we should keep most of the bullets in the gun for Seahawks Rams as we get to our picks. Mm-hmm. Lots happened in the coaching carousel. We know Sean McDermott fired in Buffalo. And I will say about McDermott, let's just start there, right? End of the first half, right? You take a fucking knee and you go into the half. You have to coach your football team. I've seen McDermott over the years. I understand they've been to the playoffs the last 7 years, whatever it may be, but I've seen him countless times over the years have moments where he just doesn't appear to be the best chief executive officer. And ultimately, I don't know. Mike Tomlin maybe already has a TV deal in place. I understand you'd probably need to compensate the Steelers. But I tell you what, I'd be finding Mike Tomlin any which way. If I'm a Bills fan, even though it's a tough swallow, I might have gotten rid of the GM too, most certainly. I am happy that we're turning a page here if I'm a Bills fan.
Well, if you follow the Pagula family businesses, and the Buffalo Sabres are one of them, when you get control there, you really get control. So McDermott gets fired, and is it Brandon Beane, I think it is, gets promoted by Terry Pagula. Now, a little bit like the Giants, there's a medical situation there that is connected to Pagula's wife, where I think he has, been in a little bit of a different mode. But in the Pagula businesses, when you get that control, you really get that control. And Beane actually gets bumped up, and he's the one who's going to lead the coaching search. Jay, I tweeted out right away that to me, the Buffalo Bills were worried they're going to lose their offensive coordinator. They know Allen likes Joe Brady. I think in part they get rid of McDermott, and unless Brady gets poached somewhere, or there's a completely whole nother plan we don't know about, I think there's a good chance Joe Brady may end up getting elevated there, which I don't know what that really does for you. I think if you're really going to shake it up in Buffalo and you can't get Tomlin, do you consider Mike McCarthy, who coached a stallion in Brett Favre, or was around, and then had Aaron Rodgers, who could run around and make every throw on the lot and had to control him, 14 years ago? Like, do you go down the road of somebody who can make a quarterback better, or at least, Jay, put better structure in for that quarterback to take advantage of his talents?
Well, structure is really a good word. I wouldn't want Mike McCarthy. And I know that maybe you have soured me on Brian Dable a little bit, but I do believe Brian Dable's a little bit of a different cat. And I think a little bit of an asshole. Sean McDermott's a nice guy. And I think maybe having a little bit of an asshole in there might help a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they prefer Joe Brady to Brian Dable, but I believe while I think John Harbaugh's the right man to lead the New York Giants, I might have gotten rid of Joe Shane and kept Dable connected to Jackson Dart because I think there was more positives than negatives there. So I don't know if they'll be looking at Dable. I like Dable more than most.
Yeah, well, that would then indicate to me that Brady would be gone. If they go with Daboll, because Daboll will call the offense then, and they would probably bring in an OC-level quarterback coach maybe or something like that. Somebody who could maybe fine-tune Allen or really just be there to help with the offensive game plan and stuff like that. That would be interesting to go with Brian Daboll because, you know, his brand is really down. And if you're in Buffalo, for as much as you might have felt like McDermott, you know, like the whole Tomlin situation in Pittsburgh where people were like, it's time.
Yep.
You know, I look at McDermott, he only made 2 AFC title games while I was there in 9 years. You know, like when you see that number with that quarterback, you're like, I know you lost to some good teams, but only 2?
Well, but ultimately, too, you also put yourself in a position this season where the road was very difficult. You're going against maybe the best team in the AFC and the Jaguars potentially in the first round on the road and then at Denver. A couple other things I want to ask you about. So Stefanski goes to the Falcons, right? Now, I will say, I'm curious what they said to him or not about Michael Penix Jr., because that job is appealing to me in one realm, but then because of Michael Penix Jr., who I don't believe in, it's almost not appealing to me. So just curious how much you like Penix and how you feel about that hire. Keeping Ulbrich to run the defense, by the way. Go ahead.
Well, and you know what? I think it's the other way around. I don't think it's what Atlanta told Stefanski about Penix. I think it's what Stefanski told Atlanta about Penix as to maybe why he got that job. It's really interesting. I did a show on ESPN radio over the weekend. One of the guys we talked to was Todd Haley, and I asked him about coaching interviews, and that was the exact point he made. He said, I've lost jobs because I'm too honest. He said, you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the answer. He said, but early on in my career, I realized the way I said things, or maybe more importantly, what answer I gave is what ultimately cost me gigs. And he said, you know, and that I think the way you position that Atlanta is one of them. Did Stefanski go in there and say, nah, he's the shits, I want to keep the old guy? Or did he go in there and say, hey, I can work this high-flying offense like this with the kid? That's what I think happened. Stefanski went in there and told them what they wanted to hear about Michael Penix.
Great stuff there. One more hire that we just need to touch on because, frankly, we don't have a ton of time here. So Robert Saleh, I like him very much. I know you don't. I believe he is a leader of men. I believe he was set up to fail in New York with the Aaron Rodgers experiment. I'm happy for him that he gets another job in Tennessee. I have a feeling with his connections, he's going to bring the right guy in to work with Cam Ward, maybe even Mike McDaniel, who I wouldn't hate. So I believe in Robert Saleh. I think it's a pretty good hire for Tennessee because I didn't believe in Callahan as a leader at all. Talk to me.
Well, given some of the other possibilities out there, Robert Saleh's a great coordinator. All gas, no breaks works when you're a coordinator, not when you're a head coach. You have to know when to speed up, slow down. Where do I do things differently? I know I'm going to treat this guy differently than the other. You can't be all gas, no breaks as your mantra. It's nice to say, it's cute. If you're coaching a defense, that works. I think this guy is a leader of 25 on defense. I don't know if he's a leader of 53, but given what's out there, Jay, I mean, really, like you said, Mike McDaniel is an OC there. That's not the worst fit at all because he does like to run the ball. And I think the head coach will want to do that. But at the end of the day, it's kind of slim pickings. If Tomlin's sitting out and he's not a possibility, then there really isn't much out there. So Saleh's not the worst hire. I don't believe in it, though, and it's in 3 years, they'll reset it again.
So in terms of Mike Tomlin, I know we don't really know where his head is at. And my guess would be that this news about McDermott's firing wouldn't move the needle for Tomlin. Who knows what his aspirations are in the future? I thought potentially coaching the Ravens and Lamar Jackson in that division would just be very exciting. But if I'm Mike Tomlin and I'm sitting here and I'm like, all right, I'm a coach. If like I don't believe he just wants to do TV like Cower and like that's it, right? So if he's going to coach again, right? And Lamar Jackson, right? But Baltimore has yet to name a coach. Am I accurate?
Correct.
So you got Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen both out there, potential to sort of link your wagon to one of them. It's well documented. Mike Vrabel came to New England. Number one reason was Drake Maye. It being the Patriots maybe is the silver medalist there, but the number one reason was Drake Maye. If I'm Mike Tomlin, I might pump the brakes and see anyone in Baltimore or Buffalo calling, because I think, I don't know, man. I think that would be great fit in either place.
Yeah, I just think Tomlin's done. And Cody threw something in the chat there about Tomlin was making about $16.5 million annually and it a no trade clause, giving him control. All that stuff is nice. But if the Pittsburgh Steelers say you're giving me a first round pick for Tomlin or you're not getting him, then Tomlin's got all that control. The Steelers still really control it because they got to get the right kind of compensation. So I just think Tomlin didn't do this without having thought about it, right? And I saw a thing from Rondé Barber, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, who like vacations with Tomlin, and he said he took it as a joke, but I guess Tomlin said to him in the offseason, yeah, it's probably my last year. And Rondé was just like, whatever, he's just dicking around. And then sure enough, Tomlin up and walks away. I do think maybe that's why Aaron Rodgers ended up there, because you and I even talked about it at the time. Tomlin leveraged some pull in the organization to make sure the Rodgers was there. So maybe Tomlin had this in his mind the whole time and was like, well, hell, this is going to be the best guy I can find. I've always wanted to coach him. He gives me a chance. So maybe there was some deeper thought there from Tomlin. But no, Jay, I think he's done, or it's either the most unique situation. Because think about it. If you hire Mike Tomlin and Mike Tomlin's got the, like you want him, he's probably going to want a little personnel say, or at least a little more control than the average head coach would get. And
That's
he's
fine.
earned
Give him a microphone.
No,
That's
and he's
great.
earned that. But but I think he's going to TV. And we're gonna lose out on having the guy in the league. Now who knows? Maybe he sits for like 2-3 years and gets the itch again. Remember, Parcells did that. He quit, and he did. I think it was 3 years of TV, and then he was like, "Nah, I want to get back into coaching."
Yeah,
so
and
the
compensation would lessen as the days fall off the calendar. All right,
all you got to do is wait 2 years, and he's free, baby.
All right. We're going to pick these games. Start with the NFC. Gresh, I'm going to put the pressure on you right out of the gate. As I said earlier, I think it's the best two teams in the NFC. I do have a pretty good feel as I sit here now, maybe a better feel than I had an hour ago. Who do you like in the National Football Conference Championship?
Oh, it's Seattle with a bullet -2.5. I think they win the game. It's under 3. If it gets to 3, it's probably a no bet for me. Anything higher, obviously, I would consider going with the Rams, because I think this is this is a typical divisional game, Jay. To me, they know each other. They know each other really well. There's really going to be no surprises here. It's really just going to come down to execution. I think Seattle being at home helps because of the communication issues the 12s end up creating. I'm going Seattle -2.5.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately for me, I think this is as hard a game for me to pick as really all season in a way, because I really feel as though I lean Seattle in the core of my being. But then when I see the name Sam Darnold, I can't allow myself to make that selection. I really like what I've seen from Matt Stafford down the stretch. He looks to me, I know the MVP conversation sort of is what it is, but he looks to me so sort of ready to win another championship. This is the team sort of I've been riding all season in a lot of ways. And I ultimately believe that Sean McVay didn't like the game he coached last week. I think he will make some adjustments. And I just think the Rams are going to be able to find ways to score. I think they're going to be able to slow the game down a little bit. I think Charbonnet not being there is going to be a little bit of a factor. I think Darnold makes a mistake or two. I do like that Rams defense too. So I lean Rams, but it's a layoff for me in the sports book.
Yeah, this is a tough game to handicap, no question. I think I thought I saw the total was 47.5. Could be a sneaky under. Defense, weather, something like that. I don't think the weather's supposed to be too bad. I think it's like 45 degrees and plain. Hey, I just saw, I know we're going to go to the Patriots game, but I just saw this in my little notes packet. Do you know what the Patriots and the Seahawks were to win their respective conferences at DraftKings at the beginning of the year? In terms of winning the conference now. They're both the same.
I think I saw it
25-1. And for the Super Bowl, they're both 60-1. Golly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you went early, we can go ahead and go right to the AFC Championship game. I hate the number. It's big. I just think New England's going to win. I don't see how the Broncos can win unless the Patriots completely implode. I do not love -5.5. But I just don't think the Broncos have any chance. There's a better chance the Patriots win by more than 5.5 than there is the Broncos winning the game. I'm going New England.
So I think ultimately the mental challenge for each individual player on the Broncos is as big as maybe the tangible element of having a different quarterback, sort of the mindset of not having Bo Nix. And I know you said the week of practice, very much might be the same. But I think so much depends on Jarrett Stidham's preparation every day of this season, right? And I'm sure there are varying degrees to which backup quarterbacks are ready to go. There have been opportunities for Jacoby Brissett where I've seen him come off the bench one week and not quite be ready, but then the next week with a week of full preparation, very ready. Then sometimes you see guys come off the bench, they light it up, but then when they have that week to prepare, they clearly show themselves as a backup. So I think it's a huge wild card with Jarrett Stidham. In terms of the point spread to me, the 5.5 kind of is what it is. I think the Patriots could find a way to cover if they play a good game, but I think it all comes down to Drake Maye. I think I peak at the under here, perhaps, even though, 41.5 is a low number.
I agree. I agree on the under. I like that.
But ultimately, I think that the Patriots need to really start out well, and I think put an absolute premium on protecting the football. And I think if they can do that, I think they're going to be very difficult to beat. And look, there's a lot of noise this week about, everyone's talking about the Texans defense. What about the Patriots defense? And this Patriots defense, I'll tell you what, there are not a lot of area to operate. And when you have Christian Gonzalez sort of on that back end, shutting down one side of the field, and Carlton Davis from Detroit last year, his first 2 picks of the year at last game, I know he had a bad PI. The Patriots, deep and pretty healthy overall. Hard for me not to lean New England here, but it's not going to surprise me at all if the quarterback for Denver is not a huge piece of the story.
Yeah, Big Milt, I think, eats big this week in the run game. I'm not talking about getting sacks or anything like that, but I think in terms of slowing the run, hey, we got a quick taste in the final 4 weeks of the regular season as to what it was like to not have Milton Williams. He's such a key cog in this game. He really is. Because, God forbid he goes down again. You have other guys in there that'll fight and battle, but you don't have an impact player. And what it does for Barmore as well, having Big Milt in there, it changes the way he plays. So I think between the tackles, there's a chance you rotate Tonga through there. Tonga, you know what? We saw the Tonga family in the club, and one of them uttered that, they got stuff for they got stuff for him on offense. It was like, they'll bust it out eventually, but they like playing with Tonga as the big guy fullback, especially in moments like this where he goes 6-0 line and you put the big beefer in there against like a Broncos team. But I'll tell you, man, this has a chance to get away from Denver quickly. If Stidham strouds it up, oh my God. Jay, you made a great point. Will Denver hang in mentally if the quarterback goes out there and plays like CJ Stroud? Well, because it'll feel like, oh man, this is slipping away because we have to play this effing guy. You know?
Well, and Stidham could get injured. You got to protect yourself too, right? You haven't been out there for a while. Could be more prone to injury.
Hey, guys, you're right. People are popping Achilles left and right. That's actually a really good point. Is there a higher injury risk because he really hasn't? And it's AFC Championship game level speed, as we talked about.
Yep. So Cody's telling me, all right, I got to go to the UFC event in Vegas this weekend, hop on Dana White's private jet straight to Denver. It seems like if John was ever to ask, this makes a lot of sense this week, especially given the fact that I believe John is heading right after UFC 325 straight to Australia from Vegas a day or two later. So I don't think he's coming back to the East Coast. A quick stop in Mile High wouldn't be the worst thing. But
I was going to say, let me ask you this, okay? And I'm being dead ass, right? If you knew you could pull it off to get on that Dana White jet to be able to go to that AFC Championship game, would that be worth you shaving your head to trick Dana that you were John instead of you? Would it be worth it for you to buzz the hair to go to that game?
100%.
I love it. I love that you said that.
I have to tell you, at 47 years old, if it was, I would prefer to shave my head like my brother does right now, if I could do it. But ultimately, I'm not necessarily trying to look just like him. But
I understand.
I get it. I don't need. I got all.
I'm just being an asshole.
Right? No, I'm with you. But UFC.
By the way, I love the hat.
Right, isn't that the Patriots, the sort of half Patriots logo pretty dope, isn't it?
Yeah. It's real nice. I dig that. I don't remember seeing that at the pro shop or anything.
No. Good and pull. I got one in red too. I've had him for a couple of years. We don't need that flying Elvis. We just got his face. So UFC debuts on Paramount Plus this weekend, UFC 324, Pimblett, Gaethje. And it is, or Gaethje Pimblett, how dare I disrespect, I believe Gaethje is
he is the lead, right? Yeah.
So, but Cody talks about sort of that CBS relationship, right? The AFC Championship is on CBS, UFC debuting on CBS, if you will. But obviously, you lose Kayla Harrison, Amanda Nunes off this card. For those of you that are UFC fans, that does feel like sort of a gut punch. O'Malley, Song Yudong, the co-main event. Either way, I think it's going to be a big moment with this Paramount Plus debut for the UFC. And while maybe on paper our guy Cody isn't exactly thrilled with it, whenever that happens, you can be sure it's an incredible night of fights, and we all remember why. The UFC is the worldwide leader, not unlike in the NFL for football in combat sports.
And Jay, I think the other thing too is they've been off long enough to make us miss it. Like last weekend, I wanted to be like, oh, where's the UFC fights? I was like, oh shit, we have to wait another week. So they've done a good job of, how can I miss you if you never go away? This is the perfect break. And then, yes, it's going to be on a whole new network, but this is going to, I think the main card is good. I hate it that we lost a couple of fights off of it, but it is what it is. And Waldo Cortez Acosta and Derrick Lewis, you give me the Black Beast anytime, I know I'm going to be entertained. One way or another, I know I'm going to be entertained. I love it that Derrick Lewis is in the greatest shape of his life. He ended up getting another UFC contract, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he even said, he was like, there's a lot of money in there. And you know what? He's taking some of that dough, and he is invested in himself. I think this guy, I wondered, I know he's crested 40 or at 40, I do believe. So there's always he had a hot run and he got to fight, DC for the title. And we know how that went. It's one of those, could Derrick Lewis be a force again? Jay, with the shape that he's in, I think there might be a chance that he could be, unless I'm completely misreading this fight.
Well, I love him when he gets in shape. I think the opponent might be a problem. Waldo Cortez Acosta seems to be that force of nature that might put himself in the mix here. But we'll see, and I love that we have a Mike Tomlin mention and a Derrick Lewis mention in the same show for different reasons. For those who don't know, Mike Tomlin with the ode to Derrick Lewis after they beat the Ravens in that final game of the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. So, Pimblett, Gaethje, any selection before we get out of here, Gresh?
100%. Patty Pimblett has sold me. And this has nothing to do with Gaethje or getting knocked out or his age or anything like that. To me, this is about AJ. We touched on it earlier about Jarrett Stidham, right? Maybe in the last 4 years, this guy's grown and he's just waiting to be a starting quarterback. There's that old line from Jim Valvano, where you were, where you are, and where you want to be. And Paddy Pimblett, where he was, where he is, he's headed to where he wants to be because of where he is and how far he's come. Pimblett has sold me. I think he wins this fight.
Yeah, I know Justin better. I've considered Justin to be an acquaintance. In terms of the way I lean on this fight, I think perhaps Pimblett is getting Gaethje at the right time. I'm not so sure a few years ago would have been the same result here. I do think Pimblett is a really underrated, well-rounded mixed martial artist, but I also think that Justin Gaethje is as good an athlete maybe as there is in the promotion. And I think it'll be really interesting to see what type of physical condition Justin Gaethje's in. He's always seems to be ready to go, but I think that that will determine. I think I'm going to look at them on the scale because when I look at the betting line, it's hard for me to see much value on Paddy Pimblett as that big a favorite.
No, I know. And everybody has everybody has sort of swung his direction and stuff like that. I totally agree with you, by the way. If this fight were 3 years ago, Pimblett probably gets eaten up, but now he's ready to kind of take the next challenge in my opinion. So, what are your expectations for Sean O'Malley? Can you have any, given the way the last couple of fights have gone for Sean O'Malley?
Love the matchup. Can't wait for that fight. But I don't really have too many expectations for Sean. I think that for him, if he ever wants to be a champion again, you have to emerge victorious here. So I'm very fascinated to see him against a different opponent than Merab Dvalishvili.
Yeah. Do you think the thought here, I know that might sound funny, is the thought here O'Malley wins, then he gets a rematch against Jan? Is it that streamlined, or does O'Malley need, say, 2 fights to get in line?
I think he needs another win. I think Merab is going to face Jan. I do think they're going to run that back. But no, I think that O'Malley may need another win, but you never know. He does move the needle. I wouldn't say his star is as bright as it was a couple years ago. So, but it would, it all depends though. If O'Malley gets an impressive finish in this Paramount Plus era, it wouldn't surprise me to see him get an opportunity.
And then that first fight, the featherweight fight between Arnold Allen and Jean Silva. I know Silva's a part of the Fighting Nerds group, correct? I got the right guy in there. That might be the fight of the night, quite honestly, when it's all said and done. Not to take anything away from Pimblett or O'Malley or the heavyweight fight, which is those are always bangers. I think that first fight might end up being the best of the night.
Yeah, that fight's unbelievable. I think if Silva protects himself at all times, I would like his chances against Arnold Allen. But if Silva is not sound defensively, Arnold Allen is hungry, and I think he could pull it off.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, buddy. I think that about does it. So we'll be talking about the Super Bowl for 2 weeks. That'll be a ton of fun, because we know New England's going to go, and I'm very excited for it. I got to say, I've already got my TV money spent. Like, that's how confident and you know that I am not one who gives in easily.
What do you mean you already have your TV money spent?
Oh, meaning that the next 2 weeks of TV that I did not plan for at the beginning of the year, actually the playoffs is all found money for me doing my television work. I get more and more time on TV as the weeks go on. Like at the beginning of the year, I'm like, okay, I got 18 weeks. Here's what I know I'm going to make and blah, blah, blah. But I'm
too bad we can't get gas on Radio Row. Fucking
Oh my God. We would have to spend the money. Damn it.
I don't care.
That. Plus when's your next DBX? By the way,
Friday night, January 30th, we go to Houston, Texas. Excited for that. Jessica Rose Clark headlines. I'm excited about that. So we'll be able to touch on that a little bit next week. Yeah, but
sure.
I know you're not going to Vegas for this UFC fights because Wheels Up to Houston, Texas, a week from today.
Attaboy, I love it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And then, is it Nashville after, or do you already do Nashville?
February
it's Nashville
27th, back to Nashville. So.
Like
excited.
that.
They're trying to do one a month, so that's going to come pretty quickly. I think.
There you go, baby. You can spend that money. You already got that one ready to cash. All right, we got to get out of here today. Thank you for watching. Tell a friend, will you please subscribe to the goddamn YouTube so I don't have to yell people on social media, which I do like to do. Great job by Cody Merrow throwing this all together. For Jay, I'm Gresh. This is Gas.